All right. Welcome to the quick little interview we're having here tonight on the show. It is Nat Daddy Weekly Roundup, almost April, so we're at March 30th here. Kind of hard to believe it's already at this time. Tonight's interview, we have Nick, am I saying this right? Mark Marinkovich?
That's correct, Marinkovich.
Marinkovich, okay. I'm pretty used to that stuff. Being in Winnipeg, we have lots of Ukrainians and that up here, so I'm very used to long names. Um, you have an amazing new book out from Image called Dead Romans. I liked this book even before I reviewed it a couple weeks ago, and then I did review it. I liked the review, and then the next day I just happened to see on Facebook. I don't know if it's the magic of Facebook algorithms or what there, but I happened to see your post up there and talking about it, mentioned how much I liked it, and then you mentioned back that you liked my comment, and it led us to here. So, why don't you tell us a little about the process and yourself and the book itself? Because, yeah, it's an amazing book. Go for it.
Oh, Dead Romans. Okay, so myself and writer, my esteemed colleague Fred Kennedy, we got together several years back after meeting at a fan expo. He had a previous book of mine, and it was just we kind of hit it off right away. He then, snuck in a little soft pitch about this idea he had about the Roman Empire, and oddly enough, right when he pitched me, I was actually in the midst of listening to this podcast called "The History of Rome" by Mike Kennedy. Sorry, not Mike Kennedy, Mike Duncan.
Oh, that's
Um,
weird because my last name's Duncan.
there you go. See, it's all great podcast though, especially if you're into Roman history. Um, anyway, so for me, that's like one of those little synchronicity things, and it's all I need to hear a person out. Um, and long story short, here we are. We both, it turned into this like little conversation over drinks, all about Rome and what we could do with this series. And when he described it to me, I had a picture in my head right away. I kind of knew how we could see this through. And Fred's one of those guys. I don't think I've submitted a single piece of art to him that he didn't, that's amazing. That no
Well,
criticism at all. He just,
that's easy to see because your art is amazing. I mean, the story itself is cool. I love timepieces and historical pieces, always do. But it was your art that drew me in when I was looking through the previews and that. When it comes to reviewing books and that, yeah, and your art is great. I know you're an artist, but is that your full time job, or are you like the rest of us, where you have to do something during the day and then do this as a passion on the side?
right now it is my full-time job. It took
Oh,
a few
that's cool.
years to
Mhm.
get there, but I finally hit that tipping point where I was getting enough constant work that I could make this my full-time thing.
Mhm.
And so far so good. Here we are. It took a while. It took about a decade.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Definitely not.
definitely
At
slow.
first, it wasn't like that. First, I was constantly pulling a side job, but here we are now, and it's been going well. And this is, we couldn't be more pleased with this series, as we were chatting about earlier. It just, um, if for those who haven't seen the press releases, it just went to second print
Yeah,
after quickly selling out in less than a week.
it's pretty
Um,
cool.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I've mentioned it, like I said, when I reviewed it on the show, and then on this week's, before when on New Comic Book Day, I always sneak into the store when I can and video what's new on the shelves. And I did see a couple of copies of your books down the shelves there. So I said even during the preview video, hey, if anybody wants, get this while you can because it is selling out. And I know you can't see it, but all our people who are watching on the screen, they can see all the cool covers for it, including the two new ones that will be. When is the release dates for the second prints? Do you know? I did see it, but I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw.
I know the FOC is that the next week or so that probably means within 2, 3 to 4 weeks, right? So
That's correct. I couldn't
yeah,
tell you exactly.
yeah,
Jim did send me the dates, but off the top of my
it's
head,
a blur, I'm sure.
it's all been moving quite fast. Like as soon
I
as
can imagine. So you are the internal artist. Uh,
correct and
did
cover
you do
artist.
cover A on the first one, on first print? Because I know you did cover B, the big horned one.
Oh, I've done covers A and B for all the
Oh,
issues.
you did it A as well. It's cool. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
And I love the new covers for the second print there. And one cover that I didn't see until I was doing a little research before the show there was the, I'm guessing it's a store exclusive, where it has that homage to the Nintendo Power cover there. That's an amazing cover there too. So
That's correct. That was one of the store exclusives. You're right.
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
So for every book, we we really brought in a lot of guest artists.
Hmm.
Book one, Kerry Nord and Adam Gorham joined us. I
Hmm.
mean, and that was a trip because I was huge fans of them, and Fred happened to know them,
Right.
and they were happy to join us. So they did the C&D covers for book one, and we have two guest artists joining us for every book doing the C&D covers. So it's there's quite a great assortment there of art in this series. It really is wonderful.
I agree. The art itself, when I look at it and describe it, it's not your superhero type of comic book art here. I'll throw it up to people who can kind of see it here too. It has kind of, like you said, more of that artistic, that scratchy, inky, painted feel to it. I know you said a little bit earlier when we were talking messaging and that you do most of your stuff digitally nowadays. Is that just out of speed wise and convenience, or is that you just find you prefer it that way nowadays, or is it like I
It,
myself being an old fashioned guy and working and seeing what the artists do the last couple of years. I do appreciate the digital stuff when it comes to convenience, especially when you have to transfer stuff around in that. But nothing beats that pen to paper or pencil to paper look and feel. So
I mean, I know what you're saying, and yes, for exactly those reasons you pointed out, speed and convenience. That was when I first transitioned over to digital, and really, once you get the hang of it, um, it's hard to go back,
yeah, for sure.
to, to paper. And one of my big hesitations when I first did the transition from analog was, could I get the same feel of the brushes? But I got to tell you, when you actually play with it and you see what kind of brushes are being put out these days,
Yeah,
I mean, it feels like you're moving ink or oil paint around. It really is. If I didn't have that type of feeling to it,
yeah.
I probably wouldn't be doing it. If
Well, what
it,
I like about it, even with digital stuff, which used to turn me off, and like you said, nowadays it has improved so much, is even you using a digital paintbrush, you can still see what looks to be like strokes. If there was like a painted stroke or like it was like a water piece in that. So that's what's kind of cool, I think, too. Um, we've talked so much about the art and the covers and that we haven't really kind of covered what the story itself is. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
let me dive into the minutia here. So,
Oh, a good word.
yeah. So it's about what is often known as the Varian disaster for anyone who's an aficionado of Roman history, or the Teutoburg disaster. But anyway,
Mhm.
what that is I believe this was like 9 AD in the reign of Emperor Augustus, the heir to Julius Caesar, you might say.
Yeah.
Um, there were 3 Roman legions sent in the governorship of Germania. So this is what's today's Germany, but
Mhm.
before, I mean, hundreds of years before it got consolidated, or 1,000 years before it was consolidated into a country. They were basically like loose tribes out there, and for those who don't know, Rome at this era was the superpower by any description.
For
They were
sure.
the United States in terms of sheer force projection in that era. So for them, I mean, they didn't think this was even a contest, really. They went up there, imposed their will, started taxing villagers who had no idea what was going on, and then this prince from one of the German tribes, Arminius, and this is all true. This is not a fictional tale.
Right.
He was one of the princes, and the way the Romans did it, when you basically make peace with a tribe, i.e., conquer them, they would exchange or basically take the heirs of the leaders to be raised in Rome as hostages, basically solidifying this peace agreement. And
Right.
they would raise them as Roman citizens and in the army as military leaders. And then that's in an effort that they would then spread Roman culture when they go back eventually.
Right.
And Arminius was just such a person, and he fought with the Romans for decades. Well, I mean, as old as he would have been probably in his mid to late 20s at the time,
Yeah.
if I'm
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Upon going back, though, he started um, when he got posted back in Germania, with Varus, the governor there, who was he was Varus's protege. He started seeing the way essentially they were imposing their will. Lots of brutal violence that the natives of the areas simply didn't understand and didn't understand why this was happening.
Right.
If you don't mind me diving into a little bit. So
Oh,
when you
go for
think,
it.
oh, okay. So a rough understanding of why is, so say when the Romans would conquer eastwards in Persia or Greece, these were all long established city states, and who had kings and leaders imposing taxation on them as far as they've ever known. So basically, when Rome would take over, it was just like one leader getting swapped out for another, same type of lifestyle. In Germania, it wasn't like that. They didn't have there were no cities. These were small, like hamlets, and not even villages, proper villages. So they didn't even understand this concept of someone coming in and then telling them that they had to offer tribute just for quote unquote protection.
Right.
So they would rebel. They simply didn't agree to any of this, and the Romans were quite harsh in meting out discipline for any rebellious people. Anyway, Arminius, witnessing all this, he slowly conjured basically a plan of how to defeat the legions, which was unheard of at the time. And because he fought with them, he knew exactly how they fight. And no one meeting a Roman army in open combat could ever beat them. There was no contest.
Right.
So he formulated this plan where, by faking an insurgency, he would divert this Roman column of 3 legions, that's about 50,000 men, through these woods, and they would just essentially slowly pick them off.
Yeah.
This entire battle, it's not like a one-off battle. It took place over days, where you're like slowly being harassed from these dark woods. And it was, imagine, to be a Roman soldier would have been terrifying and incessant.
So how long before this becomes a movie now, or a streaming service?
Good question. Yeah, we shall see. We'll be back here when that happens.
I
But
agree. Yeah.
let me just quickly. So
Yeah.
our plot, though, follows Arminius and his lover Honoria, and they're the 2 leads of this story. And really, it's Honoria who's our lead.
Yeah.
And as Fred likes to always say, and I have to say this, it's essentially a love story at heart, within the context of this crazy battle where thousands upon thousands of Romans will be dead by the end of it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and she doesn't even want the throne, right? Like, he wants to give her the throne and make her the queen and come to power, and she doesn't even want it.
She's not even aware of his ambitions.
Right. So, and
and
being
that's the
both
thing.
slaves too, right? Both former slaves. So
Correct.
it's an amazing story. I love this stuff. Like, when I start reading this, it kind of gives me feels of Game of Thrones, a little bit of Gladiator too. Just Game of Thrones, just because of all the weaving of the different plot lines and storylines and different people's aspirations in it. But definitely with the Roman stuff too, the Gladiator and that. What do you want to give us, any kind of spoiler information, or any kind of Easter egg stuff that we should know about? Or I know issue 2 will be out in about a couple more weeks. And is it a 4 or 6 or ongoing? And I couldn't find, no matter how much I tried.
Oh no, it's a 6-issue limited
Okay, it is
series.
6 issue. I thought so as well too, but that doesn't mean nothing though. I mean, that always means it could be Dead Romans again, or part 2, or spin-off of the universe. But
well, as far as I go in terms of spoilers, I will reveal that there is a second arc in mind.
There you go.
Exactly. As to when we will do it, that's still being discussed at the moment. Okay. But that ultimately wraps up, basically the story of Arminius. Mm-hmm. And of course, Honoria is, again, the central character in both those arcs. But for now, let's focus on where we're at with this one. And I really got to tell you, like, one thing I love about Fred's writing, it's just book 1 is essentially a setup for what you're going to get, and Fred really knows how to build.
Okay.
He just builds that tension, and as you're slowly getting immersed into this world, And in terms of Easter eggs, again, for anyone who's an enthusiast of that era, we've been meticulous about having an attention to detail as to all the gear you're seeing, all the look of the armor, everything, with our own flair to it, of course.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
we didn't just go in there half-assed throwing stuff out there from that's a pet peeve of mine when
Yeah, no,
when
everything looks authentic, and I know there is one Easter egg, and we were talking about off air there. Uh, Friend of ours of the Nut Daddy channel and of
oh
yours too, Mike Ruth. Mike Ruth is in there, is drawn as an appearance in there too. But Mike Ruth could be in almost every barbarian or comic like that because he just looks like
oh, I
that.
know. For those of you who don't know Mr. Ruth,
Oh,
who
everyone who's familiar with this channel knows Mike. He's on quite often, so
okay. I mean, he is a tribal leader at heart,
yeah.
and I made him one in this book. And it was a funny conversation. I was just chatting with Fred. I'm like, Mike Ruth looks like he could be fit this role. He's like, put him in. I'm like, all right, and I did. That's as far as we went.
That's pretty cool. Maybe for next time when maybe for issues 2 or 3 and that we can get you on and Fred at the same time too, because I am
Sure.
getting better with this technology. I could probably pipe in 2 people at once. So
Sounds good. I'd be happy to. I'm sure he
awesome.
would as well.
So yeah, everybody check out this book. If you can get a copy of the first print, try and get one because like I said, they are hard to get now. But if you didn't, second prints are coming out in a couple of weeks. Definitely pick one of those up. Amazing artwork by Nick here. Nick, where can everybody find you? Where can they find all your details on your social medias and whatnot?
Oh, social media, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. I believe it's Nick.Marinkovich or Nick Marinkovich.
I believe it's Dot. Yeah.
Okay, Nick.Marinkovich.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other Nick Marinkoviches there are who are illustrators, especially with Roman era
Mhm,
stuff.
mhm.
So should be easy to find.
And
And I do
you
like to, as Nathan noticed, I do like to reply quickly.
You do very quickly. I was so surprised. Um, with um, with it being like con season and stuff right now, are you hitting up any of the cons in the next little while, or do you got any other kind of projects going on the side that you want to promote real fast? Or
Well, in terms of cons, Fred and
Mhm.
I will be together at the Image booth in San Diego this year.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's great. I haven't been to San Diego in a while, so I'm very excited. We
Mhm.
will be at Fan Expo Toronto as well as in New York. Fan Expo here, we will have a booth.
Okay.
As for New York, that's undecided yet.
Okay.
Um, and projects following Dead Romans, I will be releasing issue 2 of a series I had started prior to Dead Romans called The Voyager. And
Okay.
book 2 has actually been in production for a while, and I actually had to put it aside specifically in order for us to get Dead Romans out this year.
Mhm.
So now that that's done, yeah, I'm gonna I still have like 20 pages to wrap up for Voyager, which is another historical epic, was set in the 17th century. Again, I'll start posting some preview art of that as soon as Dead Romans is wrapped up.
Nice.
And again, it's done in the same style that I did Dead Romans. So anyone who's a fan of that, um, please check it out.
Well, we'll definitely be posting that up here for you as well too, because you are definitely now an official fan, or not fan, a friend of the channel. So
Excellent. Well, I'm happy to be here,
awesome.
and I'll be happy to come back.
I would like that too, and maybe we can get your partner on as well too. But if not, as much as I do love the stories, I'm a huge art fan as well. So everybody who can, please check out his book. Like I said, Dead Romans from Image Comics. Yeah, it's a great stuff. Check it out while you can, and if not, hopefully you'll get a chance to the second print because, like I said, it is a great book. Everybody else, we will see you on the normal week daily review following soon. Take care.